gave evidence for what the mechanisms of evolution can do.
Can I talk now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. It seems a bit disingenuous when you say that none of us gave an answer, but you've been muting us or lowering our volumes. But I mean, you're asking what are the, I'm actually confused. You're asking what are the...
Just really quick before you continue, I'm lowering your volumes because of the fact that you guys are avoiding answering questions and then starting to interrupt and just bombard the room so that you can make a mess out of it. There's been specific claims made, specific questions being directed, and nobody is backing up what they're saying.
Can I talk now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, and other people can hear you. Okay, just wanted to double check. All right.
Yes.
So yeah, I was actually, you're asking for what the mechanisms can do. Neff, I believe, was asking for why something would evolve, and C. Brown was asking about burden of proof. Which one of those questions did you want answered the most?
No, Matt or Neff was basically on the same line of reasoning that I was using. Okay, if we were going to give you time, then how do we know that anything can really evolve? If we were to grant you time, because just because we were to give you the time, that doesn't necessarily mean that the evolution that we're seeing in life can actually happen.
Okay, it sounds to me like you want a justification, but others want evidence. Is it okay if I just stick to justification for now?
No, I want evidence that the mechanisms of evolution can produce the creative power that we're seeing in the different genuses, phylum domains, and kingdoms of life.
Sure. So one of the mechanisms is mutations. How do you feel about mutation?
I don't have any problem with the mechanisms posited, genetic drifts, and so on. I have no problem with any of that. But what I question is whether or not the mechanisms are adequate enough to actually justify the claim. So you can sit over and posit any mechanisms you want, but if those mechanisms don't produce any known cause or known effects, then we can't say that it's actually the cause behind it.
Yeah, but I mean, you said you don't have a problem. You don't have a problem with the mechanisms that we've proposed. You just don't think that they're capable of allowing for macro evolution. But you're fine with
for example, mutations happen all the time.
Sure.
Mutations happen all the time. Mistakes happen all the time. Nobody disagrees with that. We would all agree with certain changes happening to extents. For example, the ability to digest nylonase, the mutation that allows us to digest milk, for example. We still have that ability, but new mutations happen which allow us to digest milk. So certain mutations can happen, and changes seem to happen to an extent, maybe some small alterations or changes in proteins, but the structures that you're finding inside of the cell, over a billion pieces of technology in the cell, are built on hundreds to maybe 50 or 60 different proteins or enzymatic subunits. So what we're really dealing with is a situation of whether or not you can take each component part in a coordinated fashion to give overall function. Inside of the cell, you're having structures operating on the laws of physics and chemistry, and the only time you ever see something like turbines or so on operating on the laws of physics and chemistry is when intelligence takes each component part and sets them in motion and start acting upon each other. If evolution is that process by which, slowly the component parts can pile on each other or come here, or there, so that you got a structure with a shaft, bushings, bearings, and so on. Well then, that claim of what the mechanisms behind evolution, genetic drifts, mutations, and so on, has to actually be demonstrated or proven, because no matter what mechanisms you're positing, if it doesn't produce the effect, then we can never say that it's an additional cause like intelligent design. So that's the problem.
It gets worse than that. The simple truth of it is, just cutting it all away, is that the evolutionists get very riled when discussions come down to a mutation as a mechanism for these things, because in truth, I mean, just to be honest about it, what we're expecting is what should be expected, which is evidence that is just impossible to provide. Because, to be honest with you, 90 years of experimentation with mutation and millions of experiments on all manner of living things, flies, lizards, frogs, cats. Believe it or not, they experimented with mutations on cats, dogs, all kinds since the 1930s. Every imaginable type of accruing mutation in organisms has been experimented with over and over again. And never has any experiment provided evidence that mutation is a builder of new structural designs in organic life, and nor developing new information that codes for anything functional. New information, not duplicating existing information, but new information that codes for something new that has function. So
why isn't
this what we're asking for is something that's scientifically impossible for the evolutionists to provide. But if they believe that such a mechanism exists in genetics, they need to put forth such a mechanism. But I know we're asking for the impossible. But well, I mean, I only really think it's interesting that we continue to ask for it simply to see the evolutionists attempt to move the goalpost endlessly because they can, and then expect us to believe their philosophical ideas about how it's true, without being able to ever provide scientific evidence that it's true.
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, that's you know, that's an impossible thing for them to answer. They just can't answer that question. So, like I said, I was just trying to for them to give evidence of something that they might be able to answer, because, you know, Kane absolutely just didn't even try to touch that at all.
Well, J.D. Kane is one of those people who believes that his explanation, his testimony, that it's true and it's well documented in the science journals, is proof that it is. And then when asked, as True called him out, asked for that to cite it and show it to us, you just get anger and all of a sudden frothing at the mouth, and then he leaves. Yeah, what does that say?
Well, yeah, I hope people pay very careful attention to that, because they're going to be complaining about that later on. I asked them, and I asked them, and I asked them. They refused to give the evidence. They thought that just making a lot of condescending remarks towards our religion or our beliefs was somehow some sort of evidence for their position, or just speaking really bold and making a lot of broad statements about the supposed evidence that he's looked into and the information that he's looked into was going to justify his position or stance on things. And I'm sorry, that's not going to cut it. But Joe, just in case you wanted to respond to what has been said, I want to give Joe as much opportunity as he needs to respond. But if you're off topic, I am going to cut you short just so we make sure that we're back on topic, because earlier Wayne did get a little bit off topic, and I think that he was just wasting time. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, a lot was kind of thrown at me, but I guess the one thing that kind of confused me was why is it the case that any duplication of something isn't new information? I mean, having redundant features and all that in all organisms it's evident. We have mirror neurons, for example. We have 2 kidneys. We have 2 lungs. All these redundant features usually help alleviate some function in the body in order to allow for something else to have energy as well. There's plenty of reasons why having a duplication can be considered new information. I mean, if we want to talk about mutations, producing new features, there are sea squirts that once had one valve, I guess heart pumps or whatever. A mutation occurred, and now it has 2 valves, or 2 chambers rather. 2 chambers.
Okay, but gene duplication, you're duplicating what you already have. I don't think that's what we're looking for with new information.
I don't think that was off topic, so I don't.
But you are off topic when we're talking. You are off topic when we're talking about what the mechanisms of evolution can do as to develop new structures.
Yeah.
If you're duplicating already existing.
Yeah, mutation is one of the mechanisms. Mutation is a mechanism.
Mutation. Are we talking about mutation or gene duplication?
Well, gene duplication is a type of mutation, isn't it?
Gene duplication is where you're duplicating basically a gene. You're having more of the same thing, and sometimes evolutionists use that as an example of, well, you know what, same thing with maybe computers.
You don't think that's a mutation?
I'm copying data. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. We're on a different topic. Can you let me speak for a second, please?
Well, you interrupted me, so I thought it was more.
Okay, I'm asking you as to whether or not the incremental steps or mutations can build new structures. That's the question here. I'm not asking you for a... No, you didn't. Obviously, you don't understand what you're saying then, because the same structure or the same gene or information being duplicated is not something new, now isn't it?
Well, explain what. Well,
answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question.
I just did.
Is duplicating the same? No, you didn't. Duplicating the same.
What's wrong?
Stop it. Just because you say you did a bunch of times doesn't mean that you did.
Me when I'm trying to talk.
Okay, that's because I'm trying to correct you right now. Okay, so stop interrupting me.
Not. Well, hold on.
Joe, if you keep... Joe, stop it. I'm trying to talk right now. If you're going to claim that this is a new... If you're going to try to say that this is the same thing, you're obviously not understanding what you're saying, because duplicating the same thing is not the same thing as developing the new thing over small incremental steps. Now, isn't it?
But that's not what I was arguing for. I was arguing.
Okay, well then, why you're just going to ignore what we're talking about the claim of what the mechanisms of evolution can do, and get on some other topic? Because that's what we've been talking about.
I talked about mutation. Mutation is a mechanism of evolution. Now you're asking about the tempo of evolution.
No. So from the beginning of this, nobody's. No, I don't care. I don't care. From the beginning of this discussion, we've been asking as to whether or not the mechanisms of evolution can create the new or different structures that we're seeing across the board. Telling me that you're going to have a duplication that's going to, it's in the word, duplication. I don't know if you know what that means, but go and get yourself a dictionary. You're duplicating the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does duplication mean?
Do you know what
duplication means? Can you tell me what duplication means?
If you mute me one more time, then it's just clear evidence that you're a big coward.
No. You're going to answer the question directly. That's how it's going to be. Okay? Do you know what duplication means?
Yes.
Okay. What is duplication?
It's when you have one thing, you have duplication to two things.
Okay, so you have one thing duplicating itself, right? So why are you saying that a gene duplication is something new if it's the same thing being duplicated?
Okay, so when you have two of something, then you have new information as opposed to just having one of something. Like for example, when I mentioned the sea squirts had one chamber. There was a mutation, two chambers. You're taking away energy being used in a process to allocate it to other processes. In certain environments, that could be evolutionarily advantageous.
That doesn't sound like anything new, though. That just sounds like, again, just simple duplication, but it's not anything different from the originator.
Exactly.
Having two chambers versus one chamber isn't having a new thing?
It's having the same thing twice. That's what it's having, and you're ignoring the question. That's the problem here.
Okay,
you can't
so if you gain, if we're
asking you specifically for evidence of new structures being developed, why are you giving us evidence for a mistake causing a duplicated situation or structure?
I don't understand why a mistake causing it means that it's not a new structure. Could you explain that?
It doesn't mean that it's not a new structure because this mistake is a gene duplication. That's the point here. You're talking about another structure happening that is the same thing. This is not hard to understand.
And I don't understand why you're not I mean, having two, I just explained why it's beneficial.
Well, let me make this perfectly. Let me try to simplify this. Let me try to simplify this for you, okay? Let's say that you can have gene duplications, right? You have the heart itself, right? Show me how the heart got developed through gene duplications.
Oh, you want to switch topics to?
No. Stop it. No one's switching topics. The claim is that small incremental steps lead to these greater complexities, right? By using one type of mutation, a gene duplication, which is basically, that's what a mutation is. It's supposed to be some sort of mistake, that you got these two different valves, right? So let's say you don't even have the valve yet, or you don't even have don't even have the heart yet. How does the evolutionary process lead to this? Give me examples of evolution leading up to the complexity of the heart to begin with, where you don't have any duplications that you can make. You have nothing you can duplicate.
Okay, I just want to make clear, you're conceding the previous topic.
No, we're asking how the new structures can be developed. You're talking about a gene duplication, which is a mistake in already existing information, duplicating, so you're getting the same thing twice, right? That's what you're trying to say. We're asking for the evidence of evolution, the mechanisms leading up to these structures or complexity, which means that before the complexity is even developed, there's nothing to duplicate. Okay, Joe, go ahead, give an answer.
Oh, I'm not sure, because you adjust and readjust my volume.
Okay, I'm readjusting your volume and doing this because you were interrupting earlier. So get on topic. Remember what I'm asking you.
Well, I mean, so your answer is because it's a mistake, it's not a duplicate, it's not new information. I just
no. Well, it depends on what you're. No, nobody's moving to a different topic. Your problem, Joe, is you don't understand the topic. For example, no evolutionist would say what you would just said. It could be conceived as new information. If you're looking at it from a computer perspective, you don't want taking up more of the same space. But when we're talking about DNA, and the encoded information that codes for new structures, that's different because it's a specific complex sequence information. So it doesn't matter if you duplicate the same word, it's going to be the same word twice. If you were to type dog, right, and you duplicate that, well, it's going to say the same, you're going to say dog twice, right? It's never going to say something new like a cat or horse, right? Because new information, a new sequence of complex characters or a complex sequences is going to be necessary for you to code for something new. So you're getting off a topic a little bit and you don't understand it enough to realize that.
Okay, but you haven't addressed the energy allocation issue that I brought up.
No. I'm addressing this perfectly fine, but you're not understanding what you're saying, Joe. Joe, stop. Joe, you don't understand what you're saying. That's the problem here. If you're duplicating, Joe, if you duplicate the same gene, you're getting the same gene again, right? So go back to what we've been asking from the beginning. Go back to what we said from the beginning about the mechanisms having the creative power to produce new structures. If you have a structure already available, right, and you have some sort of mutation, which is a mistake that causes a duplication of some sort of part of that structure, then obviously you're not having something new become developed. You're duplicating an already existing structure with it, or existing part within inside of that structure. That's not evidence for the structure coming into existence to begin with through time. If you were to give it time, all that means is that there was a mistake or mutation that caused a duplication event to duplicate something that was already there. So stop trying to get off topic and move to a different situation and get back to what we were trying to get at. Or if you don't understand it, just be honest enough to say, okay, I don't understand the topic enough, so forgive me or something. Let's move on to something else.
I really don't think Joe does understand evolution theory and the beliefs of the evolutionists well enough.
I think he understood that question, but it was a question that didn't have a good answer.
What do you think, Veckel? And then what do you think, Tommy? And then what do you think? Thank you. Oh, okay, we're not. Okay, so
yeah,
go ahead.
I am interested in hearing more of your response, but so far from what I've heard, it still doesn't sound like a.
Well, what about the energy allocation issue that I brought up, Veckel? You're also a little low. I couldn't really hear you.
Yeah, I haven't heard that part yet. Haven't heard your explanation on that yet.
Yeah, at the very beginning I mentioned that duplication, you have redundancies of all sorts of things, like mirror neurons, for example. Redundancies in an organism allow for energy to be partitioned out in a more beneficial manner. It allows energy to be allocated at different areas of an organism's body or system, whatever. And as a consequence, in certain environmental situations, that could be beneficial. You can have a selective advantage. And
okay, so just because something's beneficial doesn't necessarily mean
I'm
that
sorry, I wasn't done talking. So does that make sense, Veckel?
Sort of.
Like, it's a lot easier to have one kidney. To have two kidneys versus one kidney, right, Veckel?
Okay, you're getting off topic again, Joe.
I guess so.
No, this was my whole point.
That could be beneficial. It may be. I'm sorry,
you know, I'm still trying to understand how does something new come from a duplication of something. I mean,
right.
Yeah, that's it's not new. It's just a repeat of something that already exists.
Exactly. That's the problem. That's really what it comes down. Joe, stop. That's really what it comes down to, and you're kind of irritating me. Because
I'm sorry. I thought he was talking to me. That's why.
Okay, Joe. I know, Joe. You're trying to move to Veckel because Veckel has told you guys that he's a layman when it comes to this topic and doesn't know enough about it to talk about it technically. So that's why you're. That's why you're trying to move to him. But I've been asking a repeated claim throughout this video
Listen, coward, over and over again. One more time, I'm out.
Hey, you get off topic again, I'm going to kick you, okay? So listen to me. You've been making the claim repeatedly, okay? He left the hangout. You guys saw what happened. I mean, he wanted to move to duplication events and mistake in already existing structures rather than proving that the evidence of evolution... Okay, something's being duplicated, right? You have a gene or something being duplicated, right? What is the evidence of the small incremental